Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into this week's edition of my top waiver wire targets and streamable defenses for week 6. I think you guys have already been riding the wave, so you know what to expect. I'm going to give you guys my top waiver wire target for my quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end position, and a flex position. And then I will be giving you guys my top 5 streamable defenses for this upcoming slate of action that we got going on. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and dive into the waiver wire section. Just in case we do have any first-time listeners, just so you guys are aware, the players I do speak about, they have to have at least 50% roster availability on Yahoo League, so there is a good chance that they are out there on the waivers for you, and I'm not giving you guys like that have 70-80% roster availability. You go to check and they're not there for you. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into this. My top quarterback ad of the week, I am going to go with Desmond Ridder. He's available in 95% of the leagues. If you guys have been following me since the summer, I haven't been the biggest Ridder fan, I'll be completely honest, but I was pretty impressed with what he did this past Sunday, helping lead that comeback win after the Texans retook the lead against the Falcons, and he definitely had his best game of the season so far. He threw for 329 yards. He had the 1 touchdown, and he had 4 rushes for 10 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, how I view him is, I think he's a waiver wire pickups for you to stream at quarterback this week. I don't think he's going to be a guy that you want to count on for going forward. But if he is able to stack up his performance from this past Sunday against a good matchup this week, and then he can continue doing that going forward, then he can possibly move into that low-end quarterback 2 range. But with that being said, he does have a great matchup. He's going against the Commanders this week. The Commanders are allowing 21.1 points per game to quarterbacks this year, and that is the 3rd highest average across the NFL. So again, I think Ridder's worthy of pickup if you're looking for a streaming quarterback this week. And then if he can continue to stack these performances, maybe you all of a sudden found your starting quarterback off the waivers in week 6. My running back out of the week, this is a repeat from last week. I think I'm just going to keep on hammering this home as long as he keeps on being productive and the limited touches that he's got. But the thing is, he's starting to get more volume of touches within this Titans offense. It's going to be the rookie running back for the Titans, Tajay Spears. He's available still in 74% of the leagues. This past weekend against the Colts, he had 7 rushes for 34 yards and a touchdown, and he had 4 receptions for 35 yards on 5 total targets. So if you count the targets, you count the touches, that's 12 touches that they got to him this past week. And that is starting to steadily increase. Now, if he can start seeing 15 to 20 touches a game, he starts to move into that low-end flex play. But the reason why, like I said last week about Tajay Spears, he's starting to develop a role within this offense. So he's worthy of a bench stash ad. And if you are a Derrick Henry manager, he better be on your bench, because if Henry gets hurt, like we just saw how many running backs this past, James Conner got hurt, he's on IR. Devin Achane is hurt, he's probably going to go on IR. We're going to see about that. So these running back injuries can pop out of nowhere. So the last thing that you would want to be as a Derrick Henry manager is if Derrick Henry gets hurt and his backup's up on the waivers, you're not going to want to have to go compete for him. So you better go get him. And then if you're a team that doesn't have Derrick Henry, but you have not that great of running back depth, or you have a very good set of starters where you're not going to have to worry about benching them, but you have to worry about bye weeks or just to prepare for the future bye weeks, I definitely think Spears is worthy of an ad this week. Now, this week, I wouldn't play him if you get him off the waivers. I think he's a bench stash ad. Titans are going against the Ravens. The Ravens are only giving up 12.6 points per game to running backs this year. That's the 10th fewest average across the league. My wide receiver ad of the week, I am going to go with KJ Osborne, the Vikings' 3rd wide receiver. He's available in 91% of the leagues. This past weekend, he had 5 receptions for 49 yards on 9 targets. And the biggest thing, you guys already know, Justin Jefferson is getting placed on IR. So Jefferson's going to miss at least 4 games. And then you got to factor in this Vikings team. If they're not going to win a lot of games, they're not going to rush him back until he's 100% healthy. So there's a chance that Justin Jefferson can miss a good chunk over the next one month to 2 months, or even maybe 3 months. Who knows? I'm not sure how bad his hamstring injury is. So that's a lot of production. That's a lot of targets that's going to be removed from the Vikings passing attack, and that's of course going to go to some to Jordan Addison. That's going to of course go to T.J. Hawkinson. But KJ Osborne has proven before that he can be a fantasy relevant wide receiver. Kind of view him right now until he proves himself as a wide receiver 3. But with all these bye weeks coming forward, this is a guy that I would definitely like on my bench where I can plug him in the lineups if I have a lot of wide receivers on a bye week. And he could be a sneaky play for you this week. They are going against the Chicago Bears. The Bears have allowed 24.7 points per game to the wide receiver position. That is tied for the 9th most across the NFL. Moving into my tight end ad of the week, I'm going to go with Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas is available in 85% of the leagues right now. He's been a proven fantasy relevant player at the tight end position in the past. It's just that he hasn't really been healthy over the last couple of years. And he definitely got some work this past week in week 5. He had 9 receptions for 77 yards and a touchdown. He had 11 total targets. So those that know me, those that watch my weekly videos, you guys know if I just see 8 targets for a tight end, I'm going to be very happy. But if I see double digits for a tight end, that's going to pop right into my eyes. And what's good, now he did have to miss one of the first 5 games because of a concussion. But in the 4 games that he played, in 2 of those games, he had 8+ targets. And he draws a great matchup too this week. They are going against the Falcons. Falcons have allowed 9.9 points per game to tight ends this year. That is tied for the 3rd most allowed across the league. So not only where he's kind of getting into this maybe a weekly fantasy play, but he's a great streaming option at tight end this week. My flex ad of the week, I'm going to go with that rookie wide receiver for KC, Rashee Rice. He's available in 61% of the leagues. Now, my biggest worry with any of these Chiefs wide receiver, I was telling my friend about this last week. I actually asked me about if he should play Rice, and I just kind of feel like these Chiefs wide receivers are kind of touchdown dependent right now. But as of right now, Rice is actually slowly emerging as the leading wide receiver in that Chiefs offense. Now this past weekend, he had 4 receptions for 33 yards, but he had that touchdown, right? Like I said, some of these Chiefs wide receivers are touchdown dependent. But what really kind of caught my eye when I was looking into his first 5 weeks is he's gotten at least 5+ targets in 4 out of the first 5 games. Now I want to see him get to that at least that 7 to 9 range before I can trust him in lineups. But the fact that as a rookie, he was a 2nd or 3rd round pick if I remember right, and he's already seeing 5+ targets and basically 90% of the games with Patrick Mahomes, I can only see that role increasing over the course of the season. So I think he's worthy of a bench ad. Now he could be a sneaky play this week. This Thursday night they are playing the Broncos. The Broncos have allowed 24.4 points per game to wide receivers so far this season. That is the 10th most allowed in the NFL. Now it did sound like Travis Kelce was limited in practice. I'm sure Kelce probably will play, but if we get any news between now and the Thursday night game that Kelce's out, all of a sudden Rice could be a very good quality play for this week. So again, I kind of view him as more of a bench stash ad, a guy to have on your bench to deal with wide receiver bye weeks over the next 6 weeks. But like I said, he's all of a sudden he's kind of emerging as a top wide receiver in the offense, and if that can continue to develop and you can maybe start to see that 7 to 9 targets plus a game, all of a sudden you can start counting him that wide receiver 3, maybe a low end wide receiver 2, just depending on if he can see a consistent workload every week. So yeah, that is my top waiver wire targets ads of the week. Moving into the streamable defenses, I definitely was wrong last week with the Commanders. They definitely got me. I heard some flack from that. But guess what, guys? I listened to myself too. So I had the Commanders defenses in a couple leagues. I always like to mix it up because I don't always like to bet it because I'm a big streaming defense guy. I've been there before. The name of the game with streaming defenses, sometimes you're going to get got. That's just that's what happens. That's the risk I take. I'm willing to take because most of the time I tend to get high end games out of my defense. But with that being said, I'm gonna try to get some revenge against the Commanders team and my number one streaming defense of the week. And again, this is just like the players. They had to have at least 50% roster availability per Yahoo. So there's a good chance that they're out there. And to be honest with you guys are probably already seeing this list. I'm sure I put the list up already. It's not a great week for streaming defenses. So if you maybe had the Dolphins, you definitely. I know that I picked up the Dolphins last week in a couple leagues, and I'm keeping them this week. But yeah, if you guys are forced to maybe look at the waiver wire and pick up some streaming defenses, number one, I would go with the Falcons. Falcons are available in 90% of the league, and they're going against the Commanders. The Commanders have actually allowed the second most sacks in the NFL, and they are actually tied for the third most giveaways. Now, this Commanders offense isn't bad by no means. You do have to understand the risk that they could put up points, but they're giving up a lot of sacks this year, and they're giving up the ball, and they're in the top 5 of the most giveaways. So that's something to factor in. And then, like I said, I'm going for the sacks. I'm going for those turnovers anytime I'm streaming a defense. My number 2 streaming defense, you know what? I'm going to go with the Rams against the Cardinals. The Rams are available in 97% of the leagues. And the reason why, it's not like the Cardinals are definitely a lot better of a team, a lot better of an offense than we thought. But the news that came out today, James Conner was placed on IR, so he's out for these next 4 games. And, you know, I'm not trying to say James Conner's an elite running back, but he was easily their best back. They have not really much proven depth behind James Conner. So what that's going to allow the defense to do is they don't have to worry about Conner and on the first 2 downs, winning those first 2 downs. So I see the Rams defense, especially with Aaron Donald against that offensive line, being able to bottle up the offensive line and forcing them into 3rd and long situations. And that's where they can get those turnovers. I mean, we saw Josh Jacobs throw 2 interceptions against the Bengals last week. And this Rams defense is a lot better than what I thought it was going to be entering the season. So it's a divisional matchup. They don't have Conner. I see some sack potential and I see some turnover potential in that matchup. My number 3 streaming defense, I'm going to go with the Raiders against the Patriots. The Raiders are available in 97% of the leagues. Now, I'm not going to say the Raiders defense has flipped a switch, but they did look a lot better than what they have this season and what they did against that Packers offense last night. And they're going against a Patriots offense that's really struggled over the last couple of weeks. The Patriots are actually tied for the 3rd most giveaways. They're tied with the Commanders. They've given the ball away a lot. Mac Jones isn't playing really great. They really don't have any scary threats on that offense. And what I do like about the Raiders is if the Bears offense comes back down to earth, they do got the Bears next week. So this is a defense that you get if they do find success against the Patriots offense. And the Bears offense also looks like what they originally did to start the season. Also, this is a defense you could use 2 weeks in a row. My number 4 streaming defense, I would be leery because the Bears did bite me in the butt against the Commanders last week. But the Vikings, again, there's not a lot of great streaming options this week. The Vikings against the Bears. The Vikings are available in 95% of the leagues. And I know the Bears offense definitely has looked a lot better over the last 2 weeks. So that's why I do have them ranked as low. But then when you look at the stats, the Bears have allowed the 3rd most sacks across the NFL, and they're tied for the 4th most giveaways. And then you also have to factor in too, Khalil Herbert's not going to be playing in this game. More than likely, Roshan Johnson's going to be out of this game. So they're going to probably run the ball with Deontay Foreman. But he was, even though they signed him this offseason, he has 5 or 6 carries. So it's not like they're the biggest believer in him, right? And this is a Bears team that could use any help that they can get outside of DJ Moore in this offense. And the fact that last week Foreman was a healthy scratch for that game, that just tells me there's not the biggest belief that he's going to be a successful runner, but we could see. With that being said, I could just see the Vikings offense finding some success and bottling up the running and then getting Justin Fields in those 3rd and longs. And they do have a guy like Danielle Hunter who can get after Fields to get those sacks and get those help maybe force those potential turnovers. Now, again, this is probably a super deep league, 12, 14 team league streaming defense. But if you're forced your hand, I would I'll roll the dice against them. My number 5 streaming defense, I am gonna go with the Jaguars against the Colts. The Jaguars are available in 84% of the leagues. Now this Colts offense is a lot better than what most people originally thought. It will be Gardner Minshew, but Gardner Minshew is very efficient. He does protect the ball, but this is mainly because the Colts struggle in Duval County down there in Jacksonville. The Colts actually have not won a game in Jacksonville since 2014. I don't know what it is in the water down there, but the Colts just play very bad down there. They have a tradition of getting sacked, having those turnovers. So if you did miss out on those top 4 defenses, I would definitely consider the Jaguars defense. And then when you look back at the Week 1 matchup, the Jaguars in that game did have 4 sacks. They had 6 quarterback hits. I know they had an interception and maybe they recovered a fumble. I know Richardson did throw a pick in that game, but again, it's going to be Minshew that's playing. But again, it's just like more of a factor of the Colts have just really struggled over the last almost like 8-9 years down there in Jacksonville. So yeah, that is my top streaming defenses of the week. As always, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed or followed any of my social media platforms, make sure you hit the subscribe or follow button depending on what you're watching this on. As always, if you have any questions about players on the waivers I did not talk about, get in the comment section or DM. If there's any defenses you're considering, you're debating between, get in the comment sections or get in the DMs, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. As always, you'll see me tomorrow night when I do my top starts and sits for week 6. So I'm gonna hop off here. You guys enjoy your night, your morning, your evening, whenever you're watching this. Peace out.